think it makes a lot of sense why so many people want to go viral these days. Most of us have grown up surrounded by internet fame, and going viral makes it feel like that sort of thing could happen overnight. The big tech platforms that we make content, or whatever you want to call it on, they're incentivized to make their creators want to go viral, because more viral content means more eyeballs to sell to advertisers, which means more money for them. And not to mention that we're also human, which means that we're hardwired to want validation from the tribe, and having millions of people think you're awesome is a pretty crazy feeling. But I went viral back in 2022 on TikTok and Spotify, and it actually caused me to stop making stuff for an entire year. It really taught me what I actually want from making stuff online, how psychologically dangerous it can be to go viral, and why I probably never want it to happen to me ever again. So in this video, I just want to share that experience with you, tell you why it's probably not what you want either, and then share with you what I'm doing differently now that I've had the experience of going viral. So in the true spirit of a video that's titled what it's titled, this is literally just going to be some footage of me making some pottery while I talk to you about going viral. I got pretty good at pottery back in high school because I did it for like my major work or whatever, but I haven't really done it since then, so this session might be a little bit dusty, we'll see. But yeah, you can either watch me make some pots or put it on the background, but let's get into this. So the year was 2022, and I'd been making music for a few years now, but I hadn't actually seen any success promoting it on social media. So when I came home riding the high of some travel in the middle of the year, all the music marketing gurus were banging on about TikTok and how everyone had to be on it. So I decided, fuck it, let's try out this TikTok thing, go all in, and see how far it can take my music. I started off basically following the TikTok guru advice, which is literally just business advice. It's do your market research, see what's working for other people, and shoehorn it to work for you. And I ended up finding this dude whose entire content strategy was saying, what if this song, insert song here, was R&B, and then he'd do some R&B cover of a popular song. And it taught me that the thing that people really like on TikTok is songs and sounds that they've already heard recontextualized. That's why covers do so well, and that's why remixes do so well. And with my current skill set there, I was a producer and artist, and I'd been DJing as well at the time, so I kind of knew what made a good remix. I was like, this could really work for me. So I tried it out, and sure enough, I started getting way more traction on those videos. And I could also see how it would link to my music, because if people kind of liked my remixes, they'd probably like my sound, which means they would move across to my original music. And then the fateful week would happen. One Saturday night, I was at a prees with my mate, and he comes up to me with his phone and shows me this TikTok of this random Jewish choir from Miami. They were going viral basically because they had low-key made a banger, but it was slightly a meme, but slightly not. And he told me I should remix it, it would definitely blow. I was like, yeah, right, whatever. The next week, another mate came up to me independently, didn't know about the first guy, and said the exact same thing. So at this point I was like, you know what, I kind of have to do this. So the next Monday I spent all day making a remix to the viral section. I made a TikTok, I was pretty happy with both of them, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, and it had fucking blown up. In the morning, it was on a few 100,000 views, and by the end of the day, I think it had surpassed like 1 million. And I wasn't stupid. This was my exact strategy. I knew that if I finished this song by the end of the week, got it up pretty quickly on like SoundCloud, people would start streaming it, and they'd probably move across to my original music. So that week, I think up to that point, I don't think I've ever worked that hard in my entire life. I spent so much time finishing this song, making some extra TikToks. I hardly slept, and when I did, I fucking dreamed about this song in the Miami Boys Choir. I could not get it out of my head, but by Friday, I had the final mix and master done, and it was uploaded to SoundCloud. And it worked. The stream started rolling in on SoundCloud. Obviously, I couldn't do Spotify yet because I didn't have the copyright for it. But that was about to change because the Miami Boys Choir representative, me and him got in touch, and we ended up making it an official remix on Spotify. And this was exactly my plan. It meant that whenever anyone streamed it on Spotify, they would be on my profile and they would see my other stuff, and all my other stuff would start to blow. And it felt like this was the start of my career. Spoilers, it wasn't. Now, before I get into what went wrong and what I think usually goes wrong with these viral hits, I want to do a quick disclaimer. This is just that, my experience, and then my takeaways from that experience. If you have a different experience of going viral, I would absolutely love to hear it and would love to update my opinion and my worldview. But I know that even though I say that, there will still be some people who get outraged and take this as fact and get outraged that I have an opinion. And honestly, if that's you, just like grow up. Also, if you don't actually care about the things that you create and you want to create some content machine and like make it your 9 to 5 and don't really care about fulfillment or all the other things that come along with creation, all the power to you. I'm not shitting on that. You can do what you want. That's just not for me, and those are not the people that I'm talking to right now. The first thing that goes wrong when you get a viral hit like this is you are inevitably led down the path of creating more stuff which satisfies the algorithm. And that's such an irresistible path to take because we're literally being psychologically conditioned to do so. In its most basic form, operant conditioning is the idea of just being rewarded for doing something quote unquote good, and punished for doing something quote unquote bad. And in this case, I can see two main sources of that punishment or reward. So if you've ever made anything at all ever online, you will know very well how many things that they put in place to reinforce the behaviors that they want, which is things which get a lot of views. When you get a high view video or piece of content or song or whatever, you get heaps of green ticks and pluses, and you see the graph going up. And on YouTube Studio, if you make a video which goes best out of your last 10 videos by their metric of views, you get literal fucking confetti. Confetti, I hate it. I hate it so much. But as much as I hate it, I understand that it's not the tech platform's responsibilities to make creators do what's best for them. It's their responsibility to answer to their shareholders and make more money. We just somewhere along the way forgot that and started thinking that they owe something to us. The second form of conditioning I see in terms of like external rewards you get from this viral hit. So when I got that viral hit, I earned a little bit of money. It wasn't much. For the streams alone, I got 25%, which was under about $1,000 US. So you can do the numbers on that. But what was more important with that is it represented the first time ever that I could see concrete rewards for my creation out in the world. It's really hard at that point to not crunch the numbers and start to think how many of these hits you need to start building a career for yourself. When these tech platforms try to reinforce when you get lots of views and when you get a little bit of money from that, and then you start seeing some adoration from random people who really like that thing that you did, what's the likelihood that you stop making that stuff that blew up and start making some really small content that only a couple of people like? It's really fucking hard to go back down that road once you've done it. And this exact thing is what happened to me. I didn't make that hit and then start making original stuff and move back into my own lane again. No, after this I made more remixes. I made some Taylor Swift reworks, which also did well. Then I made some other remixes which did alright, and then made some Joji remixes, which actually one of them blew up on YouTube here. And my first 1,000 subscribers on this channel actually came from a Joji rework short and a Joji rework full-length song. And if you're one of those people who subscribed from that and is watching right now, I would fucking love to hear that. That'd be fucking hilarious. But I got to the point where I realized I was spending all my time making things that satisfied the algorithm and things which weren't actually creatively fulfilling for me. And I realized that I had suddenly fallen into pretty much a 9-to-5 that I didn't like, except it didn't even have the benefits of job security or set hours that a traditional 9-to-5 would have. So I decided to quit making things for an entire year and spent all of 2023 looking for traditional jobs because I felt like the only path to creation that was viable was one that I didn't want to go down. The second pitfall of going viral is that most of the people who follow you after your viral moment are just fans of that one viral thing. They're not fans of you or anything else that you do, and speaking from experience, that is really fucking hard to navigate. Tom Scott talked about this so eloquently, it is crazy.
A number one song does not make a career. In fact, it can kill a career if all you're known for is doing one thing. All the world will want to see is that one thing. A single popular video does not make you a YouTube star, it makes you the person who stands up and repeats that catchphrase over and over again until everyone's tired of it. If you're a one-hit wonder, then it's not you that's popular, it's that one hit.
Like, I was kind of aware that most people would still just be fans of that one thing, but my theory was that a small percentage of a massive number is still a pretty substantial number. But I completely underestimated how tiny that percentage was. Like, I guess there's a case to be made that my original songs aren't as good as the remix, or they're just like nowhere near as related as they should be. And I kind of entertained that idea. Like, I tried to improve my songwriting because I was aware that honestly the Miami Boys Choir songwriting is probably better than my songwriting was back in the day. But I don't think it can fully explain numbers like these, and you can't build a career off that unless, like I said before, you continue to make stuff which satisfies the algorithm and that stuff goes better. Moving away from building a career in the numbers, it's actually quite psychologically taxing when all people want to see is this one thing that satisfied an algorithm and nothing to do with you, especially when you feel like your original work is so much more of yourself. When you're posting about one of your originals and it's coming out and people comment asking for more of that bullshit you did for the algorithm, it really hits home, and it's really hard to start feeling like the stuff that you have to offer that is really you does not have any value in comparison, even though that's not true at all. And that led to something really unhealthy in that I would start to despise the people that liked my remix but didn't like any of my other work. And that's not fair to them because they're just enjoying something that I've made, and it's not a healthy way for me to live either. And the last pitfall I see of going viral is because of something called the over-justification effect. Now, I studied psych in uni and I forgot most of the studies they talked about, but this one really stuck with me. I decided to look it up because I didn't want to misquote it. I've only got the abstract because I don't have access to it anymore because I think I've been kicked out of my uni account, which is fun. But basically what they did is they got a group of 3 to 5 year olds and then found the ones who naturally enjoyed this drawing task. And of that group of people who naturally enjoyed the drawing task, they split them into 3 groups. One group didn't get any reward, wasn't told they'd get a reward or whatever. The second group was told that they would get a reward and then got a reward after they did the activity. And the third group wasn't told that they would get a reward and then got one afterwards. What they found is that only the children who expected to get a reward, then did the thing and got the reward, showed less subsequent interest in doing that activity afterwards when there was no reward after. And that led to their hypothesis that extrinsic or external rewards for doing something you naturally like doing can suppress the natural urges to do that thing. It's a classic case of something turning into a job and then you losing the love for it. And that's exactly what I feel happens when you go viral. Because the next pieces of work you do are naturally drawn to trying to get some reward, whether you do or don't get that reward next means that you gradually stop enjoying doing the thing. And that's just really sad. One extra pitfall I'll tack on here is that if you're just doing this for money, you don't make that much money from one hit, and especially if you're trying to make a lot of money and build a career, advertisers want to see consistency. They're not going to take a punt on you if you can only provide once in a blue moon, so that doesn't work either. Now, everything I've been talking about here kind of specifically relates to my situation where I was actively trying to go viral. But what about the situation where you're just in your own lane doing your own thing and one of your things happens to pop off? That can't be bad, can it? Well, I honestly think if we're not careful, all the same pitfalls can happen in this situation too. And that's because after your viral hit, even if you logically don't want it to, you start to emotionally compare everything that you make afterwards to it. And not just that, when you're making stuff that you like, most of the time there's at least a little bit of variation in that. It might not be heaps of variation, but you probably got a few different types of stuff that you like to make. And when something goes really well, it's always going to be in one of those lanes. And the people who follow you for that are likely going to be just interested in that one thing. Yes, it's more related to the other stuff that you do, but it's still not the exact same thing. And if we link it back to the study that I was just talking about, when the children weren't told that they would get a reward and then got one spontaneously afterwards, that's kind of this situation. And they continued to enjoy doing the thing, which is great. But we've got to be careful in this situation that this external reward doesn't pull us down that path and then start snowballing in the bad direction, and then we start to hate what we're doing. It's definitely better, but it can still fall into the same pitfalls. You just got to be careful, I think. But let's take a second to entertain the idea that in some utopia, you find some way to cater to the algorithm which is extremely creatively fulfilling for you. You love what you're doing and you're building a career off it. Algorithms change and we cannot trust the direction they're moving. The CEO of Patreon did a talk on this on South by Southwest, which I watched. I'll link it below. His whole hypothesis is that the early 2000s was like the era of the creator and people like actually following you, seeing your stuff. Then the 2010s was becoming the era of the algorithms. About 2015, I think, was where Facebook introduced it. And then he's hypothesizing that if we're not careful, the era of the 2020s will be the death of the follower and basically the prevalence of algorithms, and no one actually knows who the people are that make the stuff that they like. And I think the fact that social media went through a period before algorithms where so many people were able to build careers off of these platforms fostered a climate where people really trusted the stability of these platforms. And as much as big tech would like to promote the narrative that they care about creators just so that they can keep them on their platforms, they have no obligation to us at all. And that's why so many creators who've built their careers on high algorithmic traffic fall into such dark places when they can't pay their rent anymore because the algorithm just dumped them one morning. I think it's a really dangerous path to take, personally. I think people are starting to become more aware of where these big tech platforms' motives lie, since obviously the court cases that everyone knows about where Facebook allegedly was selling people's data everywhere, and it's allegedly still going on, and then with all the stuff that's happened with TikTok and short form kind of ruining creators' careers. And most recently, this one really hits home with me specifically because I'm in music, Spotify. Spotify have allegedly been creating heaps of AI music, creating aliases for that music, and then putting all that music on their own huge editorial playlists where they get billions of streams. And guess who's getting the money from the streams? They are.
This is Spotify's way of using AI. They have AI songs. They attribute them to people that don't exist. And this allows them to take royalties that would go to musicians and keep them for themselves. The story of Johan Rör from Sweden. A very interesting individual, Johan Rör, because he has achieved 15 billion streams on Spotify. That's more than Michael Jackson. Well, Johan Rör never uses his own name in his music. He has 656 different aliases. Sometimes there's a man or a woman or different national groups or whatever. He is on 144 different official Spotify curated playlists. reaching 62 million people.
I think the main reason this is allegedly happening is because Spotify's backs are against the wall. In the last few years, it's becoming clear to everyone that their business model doesn't work, they have no money, and now we're seeing their true colors. And as much as Daniel Ek would love you to think otherwise, they don't actually give a shit about music, and they're willing to violate millions of artists worldwide just to keep themselves afloat. Fucking hell, I need to calm down here. But it's just that seeing stuff like this happen makes me think that artists and creators need to be very, very careful about the foundations that they build their businesses on. So, on that nice and positive note, I hate videos that will just end it here and be like, okay, off you go, enjoy your life. It's like, no. I'm currently working out ways to navigate this strange online creator space, and I kind of want to share them with you. Again, these are just things that I'm doing as someone who's never built something huge on the internet. I'm not your guru, and I'm not going to sell you a course at the end of this video. Also, what do we think of the pot? Before this attempt, I actually had a couple of failed attempts before this. I'm pretty out of practice because I haven't done it for a while, but it's sitting there, and I'm about to get the wire and cut it off the wheel to make pot number 2. So let me know what you think of it. So if we don't want to go viral, then what do we want to do? Well, it's probably pretty fucking obvious. We want to go slowly. And I've written down the 3 things that I think will be part of what I want to build personally, and it's make what you want, not what algorithms want, monetize it directly, not through advertisers, and do it all slowly. You kind of get the message sometimes of you've got to do work that you don't want to do to get to the work you want to do. What about do the work you want to get the work you want? It makes complete sense because the audience of people who follow you for one particular thing, if they like the value that you're providing and you're doing the work that you want, you can easily continually do that. It's not just good from a business perspective or an audience building perspective. It's also like sustainable from your own perspective. You can continually do things you like to do without burning out if you're genuinely enjoying them. Obviously, you're going to need breaks and rests and stuff, but this is a great place to start. As much fun as it is to make the things that we want, it's really nice to make things that other people like as well, and to be able to find the middle ground and connect with people on a specific level. That also takes care of the validation that we might have been seeking while looking for some way to go viral, because the people that we connect with will actually care about us and we'll care about them, and we'll all be happy. Now, talking directly about monetization and money, I feel like I've kind of danced around this subject, and I'll get into why I've kind of done that in a sec. But I think it's a lot more prudent to sell your own stuff rather than relying on AdSense or advertisers on your stuff. That's particularly because AdSense and brand deals and stuff, they often rely a lot on numbers and higher numbers and consistency with those numbers. Whereas if you have a core audience of people who care about you and want to buy stuff which they think will really bring them value, that's a lot more sustainable in my opinion. The reason I kind of dance around this topic is it's probably similar to a lot of artists and online creators. I'm prone to feeling like almost guilty about wanting to make money from the things that I make, because there's such a stigma in our society about creation and like selling out, and how the real artist doesn't want money, and how if you're doing it for money, you're in it for the wrong reasons. And honestly, this video up to this point probably feels like that as well. Like I've probably been making it sound like if you're trying to go viral, you're trying to get money, and that's just the wrong reason to be doing something creative. Not at all. We all want and need a certain amount of money, and that's okay. And I think our society undervalues creative work, and I think I sometimes fall into that trap as well. Just because we've all become accustomed to getting so much free shit on the internet and having so many people make free stuff, and even these days with AI creating literally free content all the time, it's easy to devalue creativity and to forget how incredibly important it is. So yeah, that's kind of why I feel guilty about talking about this. And I'm already feeling kind of guilty about it now. When I'm talking about selling products, I'm not talking about some scammy shit where you're kind of cashing out on the trust that you've built with an audience. No, I really truly believe that I can create things of real value that people will just want to buy, and they will be extremely satisfied in buying. And I know it sounds like a bit of a utopia, but I kind of believe it. I've spent limited time in like marketing and a bit of sales jobs, and I understand how much the business world pushes products on consumers. Maybe it's motivated reasoning, but I just don't want to do that, and I don't think that is completely necessary. I'm not saying that I'm not going to monetize via ads. You probably watched a fair few ads on this video anyway, and sponsorships. Those are good, and it's good to integrate those well, but I'm just saying don't rely on it, because like I said before, those can be extremely dangerous if we end up relying on them. And the third one is build slowly. And the thing about this is that it's not like a byproduct of what we're doing here. It's a prerequisite for all of it. Because in order for you to sell something of value to an audience who really wants to buy it, you have to have trust with them. And in order to be able to have them continually coming back to your videos or your work or whatever, on whatever platforms you're using, they need to continually trust you, because the algorithm's not just going to be sending it to heaps of different people. These people matter. And trust takes time to build. There is actually no shortcut to trust. One person that's really impressed me and like I'm quite admiring at the moment is Jay Alto. He hasn't even got 10,000 subscribers yet, but he's posted an extremely good video every single week. And I've not seen engagement like this on anyone else's videos. And none of them really blow up, but everyone who watches them, I can tell, just really values them. I've watched fucking all of them. So building something like that is exactly what I want to do and I'm trying to do. And after writing these 3 things down and thinking about them a bit, I've realized that they're literally just the hard things. It's like, make things that you don't get validation from, fucking actually have a product to sell to people rather than just passively relying on advertisers, and do it slowly rather than getting quick gratification. Yeah, it's all the hard shit. But it also seems like the most fulfilling path. You get heaps of people who actually value you and the stuff that you can provide and really want to buy stuff from you. You get to make all the stuff that you love, and you get to do it sustainably over the long term. Like, honestly, the more I think about it, the more excited it makes me. And bringing it back to that talk that I was talking about earlier from the CEO of Patreon, in that talk, he made this distinction between idea-based YouTubers and personality-based YouTubers. He said that earlier in like the 2010s and earlier, personality-based YouTubers were more of a thing, and these days, idea-based YouTubers are becoming more of a thing. Personality-based YouTubers are people like Emma Chamberlain or like Casey Neistat or PewDiePie, where no matter what they did, you would still watch them because you were watching them for them. You weren't watching them for like the thing that they were doing. You were just interested to see what they got up to and kind of connect with them. Versus these days, someone like Mr. Beast, you don't give a fuck who's making that video. It's just the fact that it's a crazy ass video is why you're actually watching it. For me personally, I kind of want to become more of a personality based creator. And as much as I love people connecting to my work, even I don't connect with individual pieces of my work anywhere near as much as I connect with the through line between it. And often that's just the things that I like. So varying my content, I keep saying content, I fucking hate that word, but varying the stuff that I make so much so that the through line is my personality and that's what people connect with. That's what I'm trying to do these days. This all might, again, sound like a massive utopia. I don't know, but my experience with going viral taught me that even if this is a utopia and it's not possible and I need to approach it with a more business mindset, I don't want it the other way anyway. So all of this is kind of resisting what the platforms reward in like heaps of views and really quick views and whatever. So it kind of needs a system which combats that. And what I'm finding is the most important first step is limiting the amount of contact I have with these analytics platforms and limiting the amount of conditioning that they can apply to me, making me think that stuff that goes well with the algorithm is really good. I wanted to make a full video about the rules that I have surrounding this stuff, but it's been really fucking game changing. The first one is that I'm not allowed to check any of these analytics platforms or anything that could give me that reinforcement while I'm making a video. I can only check on the weekend once it's already uploaded. And I think I want to do the same with my music. And then a little strategy which is kind of cheeky. I've noticed that if I make a video or something which doesn't go well with the algorithm intentionally, then when I sit down to make the next ones, I'll feel way less pressure to like conform to the algorithm because I'm not comparing it against something that went well. I've got a clean slate, but after I've limited my contact with their metrics for what's good, I need to create my own. Because if we're going to combat the extremely strong pull of this conditioning which these analytics platforms are doing to us, we can't fight it with logic. Mark Manson talks about it a lot. A lot of other books talk about it. I'm sure it's in the psychological literature as well, but it's kind of that like if you're trying to combat something emotional, you can't combat it with logic. It's like if you fucking go on a diet or something, you know how much stuff you should be eating in a day and you know which stuff is more healthy and better for your diet and not. But that doesn't stop you from slipping up. It's not logical, you just can't resist it. So if the emotion that those analytics platforms pull on is the need for validation, I want my metrics to pull on the similar need for human connection, but on the individual level, the real level, rather than just huge numbers. To do that, I plan to make it as visible as possible to me when people get real value out of my work. So in future, I have plans to start a Discord so I'll actually get to connect with people who actually get value out of what I'm doing. And this week, I started an email list. And the fact that only the people who get real value out of the stuff that I'm doing will subscribe means that I'm hoping that the number of people that I'm interacting with on there is a far better indicator of what sort of value I'm providing than, like, say, the number of views I get on a YouTube video or streams on a song. So I'll put the link to that up on the screen right now somewhere. and in the description. So I'd love you to sign up to that if you are interested in the things I make. If you sign up, I have a very big announcement, which I'll be sending to your inbox. As external as these reinforcements may seem, I'm hoping that they are reinforcing the intrinsic motivation for doing this stuff, the value that it provides to people, and the stuff that I actually like making. So at the end of the day, if we can control the psychological effects of going viral, the extra traffic from it is mostly good, honestly. But if we don't control for those psychological effects, we could start to dislike the people who like just a single piece of content. Like with this video, if you really enjoy this video, but you never watch another video that I make ever again and don't care about my other stuff, if I'm not careful, you'd be the person I'd least likely like to reach. But how could I realistically wish that this video didn't reach you when there's a chance that you got some real value out of it? So I'm hoping, and I've already started to see the effects of it, as I build these systems and become less reliant on the virality and on the spikes in hype, I'll become more grateful of the people who just value my stuff and not care whether or not you stay for future things. Obviously, I'll be really grateful to the people who do, but I won't start to dislike the people who don't. And you could even see this strategy as a bit selfish, just making the things that I want to make, and even if I can see that there's potential and people want to see more of a certain thing, not making more of that. But I would also then argue that if you make the things that you really want to make, then in the long run, you'll probably end up providing more net value than you ever could by following something that you didn't actually care that much about. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but we're almost at the end, so I've just got a couple final notes here. I can see that with this line of thinking, it's very possible to start thinking that anything that goes well is evil. It's not. I had this realization when I was like kind of researching 3-act structure, which is basically storytelling basics for movies, which are used in like every movie. And it made me think of this, like when you're at a cinema watching some great movie and you're on the edge of your seat the entire time until some big revelation or a massive climax. You don't walk out of there going, yeah, that was awesome, but I wish they just got to the point in the first 5 minutes. It's like, no, you're grateful that they told a great story which kept you hooked and engaged the entire time. You love that. And it's also satisfying to make something with that great story like that, something that you would watch yourself. Looking at it the other way, I'm sure you've had a family member or a friend come home from a long holiday, sit you down and talk you through their holiday in chronological order with like no storytelling at all. That's an experience that'll really make you appreciate some good storytelling. So as humans, we want to be engaged. We can't forget that these algorithms are built off human psychology, and parts of that are good, like storytelling. People like to be compelled by a good story, but parts of it are bad. Like, for example, people focus more on negativity and click on more negative things because evolutionarily, if there was something negative, you probably should pay attention to it. Another like extra note that I had is that like creativity is naturally divergent. So the more we cut off the directions for it to go in order to suit some algorithm or some external goal, the less likely it is in future to create like super novel ideas that brings heaps of value to us and so much fulfillment to us, and then heaps of value to other people as well. So basically the crux of that is the more we force our creativity in one direction, the less likely it is to do anything cool at all. And everyone loses. One reservation I did have making this video as well, though, is I'm quite aware that this might be one thing that you just have to experience yourself to fully internalize. Like before my little viral moment, I kind of understood a lot of this. Part of me thought that I could bypass some of the bad aspects of it. If I was just careful, I could just move in the right direction and leverage it for the benefit of myself. And I'm sure a lot of people have done that. It's quite possible that there are a lot of you listening to this who will agree with me, but then still internally really want to go viral. I just wanted to make this in the hopes that I could share my stuff and you could learn from my mistakes. And one last thing on my experience of having gone quote unquote viral a couple years ago. If you had a button for me to press and I could go back and change what I did and be back there and start building something better, like all the stuff that I've been talking about in this video, I'd probably do it. But even though I would have done things differently, it wasn't a terrible experience, and I'm still grateful for where I've gotten to today. I learned a ton of lessons from it. It was fun while it lasted, and I'm sure there are some people who found me through that who are still listening to my stuff and watching my stuff. I just kind of wanted to qualify that because I can hear people being like, what if I just take away your streams? Would you be happy then? So I'm going to leave you with a prediction that I thought while writing the notes for this video. This one's completely written out in script, so I'll just read off that. This is just more generally relating to the direction that things are heading for online creators. It's a pretty wacky prediction, don't take it too seriously, but here goes. The fact that the direction of these big tech platforms is so harmful for creators means that more and more of us will be taking these alternative directions. With increasingly less content on their platforms, they might just become indexes of their own AI-generated content. If we believe that most humans will always want to connect with real humans, these platforms will have less and less people for advertisers to sell to, and in turn, smaller and smaller profits, only selling to people who enjoy the AI content. Maybe this will cause these platforms to start to prioritize creators' needs, in which case we'll rejoin them and everything will be sweet. Or maybe we'll all leave, and new platforms which prioritize the needs of creators will emerge. We're already seeing this with Discord, Patreon, Substack, and a couple others, leaving the legacy platforms to simply be indexes of their own AI-generated content. That AI content will have had to have been illegally trained on work from real creators and will cause fiercely battled lawsuits where the creators are represented by new platforms that they're a part of. In either of these scenarios, people will still need creators, just as people will always still need real human connection. I have no idea how well that is going to fit into the video, but there's one of my little predictions. If you've got a different experience of going viral and like all of this sounds kind of like bullshit, I would love to hear it in the comments because, again, I'm aware that this is just my opinion and I would love to update my opinion with some more perspective. And like I said, if you're someone who got value from the video but never watches another one of mine, I appreciate you, and I'm just grateful that you got some value out of this. If you are one of the people who wants to be part of the thing that I'm building slowly, I'll put my mailing list on the screen right now. I kind of want this to be like the core way which I communicate with my core audience, because I don't want to have to rely on the algorithms from the big tech platforms to get my message to people who want to hear it. And to everyone who signs up to the mailing list now, I have automated an email, yes, I'm very advanced with all this stuff, which tells you about the next thing which I have coming up, and it's pretty fucking big. I also just quickly want to shout out Neat on the Rocks, whose video inspired the format of this one. In the video, he was literally just playing Sonic and talking about some really deep ideas behind it, and it went for 30 minutes and I really enjoyed it. And it kind of reminded me what I like so much about YouTube. It's just random people online sharing their thoughts about stuff that they care about. And finally, what do we think of the pots? The first one that I made in this video is the one all the way on the right, and as you can see, it's got slightly thicker walls, which is not as good. But I think it's got a cooler shape, so I don't know. Let me know which one you like. And let me know if you want to see more pottery, because I kind of enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed my rant, and catch you later.